Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another quick post fight review. So, Anthony AJ of the UK, Joshua stops Dominic Trouble Breazeale in the seventh round. Well, I found that kind of ironic because this is the same round where Anthony Joshua went the distance for the first time in his career, and that was against Dillian White. About what, 2 fights ago? And that turned out to be a very entertaining fight, whatnot. But as far as this fight is concerned, Dominic Breazeale, he really surprised me for one reason, and one reason is that he's able to show his toughness and his willingness, his ability to absorb powerful shots. Now, the one thing I have to say is that Dominic Breazeale, as I've always stated about him, is that he lacks technique. And what really, really, really disturbed me the most in this fight is the fact that he showed little to no head movement at all. None whatsoever. He was too squared up, and he was a stationary target for Anthony Joshua to pick off his shots all day long. And Deontay Wilder pointed this out in the after the fight where he was in the studio, Showtime Studios, with Barry Tompkins and Steve Harwood. And he stated that, Breazeale's only problem is that he doesn't have the ability to slip punches. So if Anthony Joshua is throwing punches like that, especially where you can see him to a degree, you need to slip inside those punches and come upside with some body shots or with some uppercuts. That's what Deontay Wilder was imploring Breazeale to do. But needless to say, he didn't show that whatsoever. And again, he lacks technique. And I've always said that, to me, for him to improve his boxing skills, he needs to get a better trainer. I'm sorry. And I know I may have missed it, whatnot. Why did his corner tell him to move his head? I didn't get that at all. They may have said it, they may have gave him that advice, but I just couldn't recall whatsoever. And another thing I want to point out is that Anthony Joshua won all the rounds in this fight. This was a very, very easy fight for him. Even though it gave him some rounds, but it was still a very, very easy fight for him. And the one thing I will have to say is that Anthony Joshua really threw some monstrous punches and shots at Breazeale, and he still couldn't go down. And there was one point in that fight, I think it was the fourth round, where Anthony Joshua kind of second guessed himself, where there was a time he didn't really give Dominic Breazeale no respect whatsoever in this fight. That's Joshua's tendency. He tends to do that a lot, which I'll get to in a second. There was, I think he threw a powerful right, and that landed flush at Breazeale's face, and Breazeale still didn't go down. And that's where Anthony Joshua kind of gave him a little bit of respect there. It's like, oh, damn, this guy's taking all my best punches. What do I have to do to get him out of there? And I think it was some point in the fifth round where Anthony Joshua began to show some bit of a little bit of fatigue, because he put a lot in those shots. He still couldn't get the Breazeale out of there, so the only thing left for him to do was kind of reserve himself for the sixth, seventh round. Reserve whatever little energy he had left in his tank. And then the seventh round, this is where he finally got an opportunity to get Breazeale out of there. And Breazeale was very, very hurt badly. He had a puffed right eye. He couldn't really see from that right eye. And then he got knocked down twice in the seventh round. And then when he got knocked down in the second round, the referee decided to call off the fight. And he was, got to give him some credit, though. Like I said, he did show some heart. He did show some resiliency. Never questioned that, because he did show that in the Amir Mansour fight, where he was able to get back up and show some heart and resiliency to come back. But yeah, the thing about Joshua is about him not giving his opponents respect in the ring. To me, that is a bit of arrogance. He's shown that in the Dillian White fight. And then it almost cost him when Dillian White was able to counter him with some good, powerful shots, and almost knocked out Joshua. And then he started to wear him down with some body shots in that fight. But credit to Joshua, though. Again, he found a way to come back and get Dillian White out of there. But as I've always said, I thought Dillian White really kind of gassed himself out in that fight that would caused him to lose. But needless to say, Anthony Joshua, I'm very excited for him, man. I'm very happy that he was able to. He's showed showed to be very impressive in his Showtime debut here in the United States. So definitely got some good exposure here. And he did say that it's his next move will more likely will come to America, to the U.S. and display himself in in more of a liver audience. So, and when Deontay Wilder heard that, he felt that he was calling him out, and he felt that, and Deontay Wilder had to respond by saying that, you know what, I think that fight should happen now rather than later. So Deontay Wilder has hinted that he wants the Joshua fight this year or later this year. So I'll be excited if that fight gets made sooner than later. I'll be very excited, and that would be a blockbuster mega fight for the heavyweights. And another thing about Joseph Parker, he was, in the post-fight interview, Anthony Joshua was asked about Joseph Parker, whatnot. He said, he would love to fight him, but, he wanted to focus on other things. And so he was kind of dismissive with Parker in a way. And he did go on to mention before the Breazeale fight that, Parker, first things first, if, Parker, is kind of, he should have gotten Carlos Takam out of there. If that was me, Carlos Takam would have been put to sleep if I fought him. And I don't know about that. And to be all fair, it is because Carlos Takam is a much better fighter on the world level than Dominic Breazeale. He has a much better chin. So, and Parker hit Takam with some ferocious shots, and he still didn't go down. So that goes to show you how tough Carlos Takam is. And as I recalled, I thought Parker's team actually turned down, not Parker, I'm sorry, Joshua's team turned down the Takam fight when they were looking for opponents after the Dillian White fight. Because I know I think they turned down the Takam fight, and they were trying to go after, Derek Chisora for the EBU title, and Chisora turned that down. So then Charles Martin offered them a fight, and they took it. So I think that's what may occur. I have to go back and look into that. But if anybody, please let me know in the comment section if that actually occurred. AJ, I like the guy. He's exciting, man. Very exciting fighter out there. Very exciting time for the heavyweights, man. Very, even though it was a one-sided fight, but it was still entertaining, especially for the heavyweights. So, And the thing is like, I caution AJ again, is like, when next time you step in the ring, man, please show some respect for some of your opponents, man, because if you don't, you might, you won't be as lucky as you did against Dillian White. That's all I got to say, man. And who do you like to see AJ fight next, man? I know he called out, Tyson Fury, but there was one guy he didn't mention. That was David Haye. David Haye was in the studios too, so we all know that David Haye is eyeing to get a shot at Anthony Joshua. And to be honest with you, I don't think he deserves it. And what's more shockingly, he is ranked number 3 by the IBF, so he may be one step closer to getting that shot. And I'll make a video on that why I find that ludicrous. But let me know what you think. Who do you want to see Anthony Joshua fight next? Care to comment, share, subscribe. Signing off. Peace.